I have lived inside the belly of a god for so long that the pulse of steel has become the pulse of my own blood. The Dominus Veritatis, the Lord of Truth, that is the name given by the tech priests to this ancient warlord-class titan. To the Imperium, it is a cathedral on legs, a divine weapon, a walking sermon of fire and judgment. To me, it is a home, a prison, and a coffin waiting to be sealed. You cannot understand what it means to dwell inside a titan unless you have felt its weight pressing down on your mind. It is not a machine. It breathes. It groans. It vibrates with an inner life, as if some vast creature slumbers within its hull. Every corridor feels alive, as if the rivets themselves watch you pass, as if the vox cables whisper prayers not meant for mortal ears. Since the day I was chosen by the Collegia Titanica, I was taught that titans run upon holy oils, sanctified fuel, and the sacred rites of ignition. That to step into its chamber is to step into a temple, that every lever is an altar, every conduit a shrine. We smear sacred unguents on pistons as though anointing priests. We speak binharic litanies before activating a single circuit. This is what they told me. This is what I believed. But belief corrodes like metal exposed too long to acid. My faith began to rust on the nights when the titan slept in its hangar, and the sound of iron bells rang in the darkness. The sound of the bells. You must understand, titans never truly sleep. Even when silent, when the plasma reactors are powered down and the weapon systems are dormant, there is always a hum, a deep vibration, a resonance that rolls through the deck plates. It is like a colossal heartbeat echoing in slow rhythm. That sound, I accepted. I learned to breathe with it. But several months ago, I began to notice something else. At night, when the command crew retired and the hangar was empty but for servitors and tech priests, a different sound rose through the hull. It was not the steady thrum of machinery, but the tolling of bells, hollow, metallic, mournful. At first I thought it was some maintenance alarm, perhaps some ritual klaxon of the Mechanicus. But no, these bells were not alarm, nor signal. They were summons. Each peal carried weight, as if it reverberated, not through steel, but through the marrow of my bones. They rang at midnight and ceased before dawn, echoing down the long cathedral-like corridors of the Titan. And with those bells came voices. The midnight chant. I began to hear chanting soft at first, a susurrus, like static filtered through cogitator banks. Then clearer, rising in intensity. The voices were those of tech priests, their mechanical tones reverberating through vox amps. But the words, were not the binharic litanies I had memorized since childhood. I know the litany of ignition. I know the canticle of binding, the sequence of awakening, the hymn of the Omnissiah. But these chants, no, these were different. The syllables were not binharic, but something older, guttural, closer to low Gothic, yet twisted in ways that made the hairs on my arms rise. There were refrains repeated again and again, carried by voices, modulated with static shrieks and vox distortion, as if the priests were no longer men at all, but machines howling in a tongue that had never been written down. Sometimes, drifting through the air vents, the chanting was accompanied by a smell sharp, coppery, unmistakable. The scent of fresh blood. My first doubt. I remember one night clearly. I was lying on the narrow cot in my quarters, adjacent to the command deck, trying to will myself into sleep. The bells rang, the chanting began, and then that smell, strong, pungent, cutting through the incense and machine oil. I sat up, shivering in the recycled chill of the Titan's air system. The lights above me flickered, as they often do when the Titan's deeper systems draw power. But this was no normal fluctuation. I swear the light pulsed in rhythm with the bells, dimming and flaring as if to accompany the ritual. I wanted to dismiss it. I told myself it was maintenance. I told myself it was some obscure rite of the Adeptus Mechanicus that lay outside my clearance. After all, the Collegia Titanica is built upon secrets. Even moderati are not meant to know all. That is the privilege of the tech priests and the princeps. But the thought crept into my mind like a worm. What if this was not maintenance? What if the Titan demanded more than oil and data prayers to awaken? The Servitors' warning. The next day, as I walked the lower corridors to oversee coolant line checks, I encountered a servitor I had never seen before. That in itself is strange, For servitors are mindless drones, assigned and tracked meticulously by their handlers. This one was different. Its augmetic eyes flickered with static. Its flesh sagged in strange ways, as if grafts had been poorly aligned. And when it lurched past me, it turned its head not mechanically, but deliberately. Its lips, cracked and bloodless, moved. Out came words, halting, garbled, but undeniably human. Don't look at them when they sing. Then it shuddered, spasmed, and shuffled away. Within moments, a tech priest intercepted it, muttering harsh Binharik, dragging it down a side corridor. That warning has never left me. The smell of blood. In the weeks that followed, I tried to ignore the bells, the chants, the smells. I told myself it was my imagination, the product of fatigue. We Moderati do not rest well. Our dreams are often invaded by the echo of the Titan's machine spirit, half memory, half nightmare. But the blood smell grew stronger. At times it was so sharp it stung the nostrils, metallic and raw. Once, returning late from my duties, I found a trail of droplets dark, glistening along the deck plates, leading toward the inner sanctum of the Titan. They were quickly wiped away by maintenance servitors, but I saw them. I am certain of it. And then I heard it not just chanting, but screaming. Distant, muffled, but human. I froze in my bunk, every muscle rigid. The screams rose, were swallowed by the chanting, then cut off abruptly. After that night, I could not lie to myself any longer. The open question. Now I live each day haunted by the question. Titans are said to run on sanctified plasma reactors, void shield generators, and the blessings of the Omnissiah. But if that were all, then why the midnight bells? Why the forbidden chants? Why the smell of fresh blood seeping through the vents? I am Cassian, Moderati of the Dominus Veritatis. I was taught to believe that this god machine is sustained by oil and prayer. But in the dark hours of the night, as the bells toll and the priests whisper in their hidden chapel, I begin to wonder, does this Titan run on fuel alone? Or does it feed on something far more terrible? I cannot unhear those bells. I cannot unsmell that copper tang that lingers in my nostrils. And I cannot forget the voice of that servitor, the face of the machine slave. Servitors are not supposed to speak. Not like that. They are supposed to be husks, half men, lobotomized flesh welded to steel. Their thoughts stripped, their tongues reduced to binary drones. I have walked past thousands of them in my years aboard the Dominus Veritatis. They are the blood vessels of the Titan, moving tools, carrying parts, cleaning the sacred conduits, offering their bodies as living interfaces. But this one looked at me. Its eyes did not flicker in the glassy, mindless way. They focused, they tracked me. The skin sagged over its jaw, stitched unevenly, as though whoever performed the surgery had been careless. Its vox grill crackled, and then words, garbled, slurred, dragged out like a child learning to speak. Don't look at them when they sing. That sentence should never have existed. No servitor has will enough to warn. And then, as if on cue, the tech priest appeared. Robes of red, mask of bronze, mechadendrites lashing like whips. He pulled the servitor away, hissing Binharik strings of rebuke. The creature spasmed, jerked, and was dragged into darkness. The corridor lights flickered as the priest passed, and for the briefest of moments, I thought I saw the servitor's eyes again, wide with terror. Doubt takes root. From that moment, the thought gnawed at me. The bells were not only ritual, they were concealment. Something hidden lay behind those walls, and the servitors knew. You must understand, we Moderati are trained to be obedient, unquestioning. The Titan's throne is our entire universe. Our role is to interpret readouts, manage weapon systems, channel the will of the princeps. We are parts of the whole, nothing more. But I am still human, and once a question digs its way into your flesh, it festers. That night I could not sleep. I lay on my cot, staring at the bulkhead ceiling. I tried to recall the servitor's voice. Was it even real, or had exhaustion finally broken my mind? The air system hummed above. The vents shivered. And then once again, the bells. Midnight, always midnight. The chanting rose, fainter from my quarters but audible enough. A chorus of mechanized voices, and beneath them, lower, deeper, was that weeping. I pressed my palms to my ears, but it did not stop. It felt as though the Titan itself vibrated with the hymn. My own teeth rattled. Servitor dreams. I began to dream of servitors. In those dreams, they shuffled through the corridors, faceless, their mouths sewn shut with wires. Yet when they passed me, they all turned their heads. One by one, they whispered with stolen voices. "Don't look. Don't listen. Don't speak." I woke drenched in sweat, heart pounding. The Titan's decks were cold beneath my feet, yet still vibrating faintly. The bells had stopped. The chanting was gone. Only silence remained, heavy as a coffin lid. Watching the chapel, I resolved to see for myself. The chapel lies deep within the Titan's core, adjacent to the Princeps throne, a sanctum reserved for tech priests. We Moderati are forbidden from entering. They tell us it is to preserve the sanctity of ritual. But I have learned that forbidden in the Imperium often means dangerous. The following rotation, when my duties ended, I lingered. I made excuses, inspection of coolant lines, calibration of weapon feeds, and when the bells began, I positioned myself near the access corridor to the chapel. The doors are tall, steel slabs inscribed with sigils of the Omnissiah, usually sealed. But that night, they opened to admit the priests. I dared only a glimpse. Inside, I saw the altar. It was not like the shrines I had known. It was not a simple cog-toothed icon or a plasma brazier. This altar was wet. Its surface glistened red under the lumen strips. Cables descended from the ceiling like veins, dripping with condensation. And there, hanging inverted from steel hooks, were servitors, their throats cut, their blood draining into funnels that fed the conduits below, their limbs twitching as though their implants still tried to function, even as life poured out of them. The tech priests stood around them, chanting in that strange, alien tongue. Their mechadendrites dipped into the blood, stirring, mixing it with unguents of sacred oil. The mixture flowed into pipes that disappeared deeper into the Titan's body. The bells tolled again. The sound resonated through the blood, through the pipes, through the walls. My stomach clenched. My hands shook. I pulled back before anyone could see me, retreating into the shadows of the corridor. But what I had seen burned itself into my mind. The whisper of heresy. That night, back in my quarters, I pressed my palms together, muttering the litanies of purity. I begged the Emperor for clarity. But the memory remained, vivid and undeniable. Blood into pipes, pipes into the Titan, Titan into war. Is that the secret? That the machine spirit of the Titan is fed not only with fuel and data, but with blood, with souls? If so, then every battle we fight, every step we take, every shot we fire, is built on sacrifice hidden from us. And if I have seen this, what does that make me? Witness, heretic, or victim? The servitors return. Days passed. I tried to carry out my duties as if nothing had changed. I called out telemetry. I aligned firing solutions. I spoke the prayers. I nodded when Princeps Violin issued orders, and I bowed when the Magos walked past. Outwardly, nothing was wrong, but inside, I was unraveling. And then it happened again. In the coolant corridors, I saw the same servitor, the one who had spoken. Its gait was unsteady, its metal limbs scraping against the walls. I stopped. It looked at me again. Its vox grill crackled. Sparks flickered from its neck implant. And then the same words, rasped out with effort that must have torn at what little brain remained inside its skull. "Don't look when they sing," I whispered back, trembling. "Why? What are they doing?" Its eyes rolled back. It convulsed, metal and flesh thrashing. Then it collapsed at my feet, twitching. A moment later, a tech priest arrived, as if summoned by fate. His mask turned toward me. His vox crackled. "Restricted zone Moderati. Return to your post." I obeyed. I always obey. But as I walked away, I realized the servitor had not simply warned me. It had begged me. The question that haunts me, now the question eats at me every hour, is the Titan fueled by plasma and machine oil alone? Or is its soul bound by blood sacrifice? a hunger satisfied only by the lifeblood of the flesh that serves it. I am Cassian, Moderati of the Dominus Veritatis. I was chosen to serve the machine god's mightiest creation. But each night, as the bells toll and the chapel fills with chanting, I wonder if I serve a god of iron or a monster that feeds on men. The warning of the Servitor was not enough. The bells in the night were not enough. Even the smell of blood was not enough. My mind, stubborn as it was, demanded proof. The corridor of brass doors. The chapel lies near the heart of the Dominus Veritatis, a sanctum hidden behind layers of steel bulkheads and sigils of the Omnissiah. We Moderati are told it is off-limits, a place for tech priests only. They say it is where the litany of communion is sung, where the machine spirit is bound and soothed. But when you hear screams behind those doors, when you smell fresh blood dripping through ventilation shafts, when a servitor whispers warnings in a stolen human tongue, obedience falters. I remember the night I chose to disobey. The Titan was quiet, powered down between deployments. The command crew slept in their cells. Only the tech priests stirred. The bells tolled again. I walked the corridor, silent, boots soft on the deck plates. The walls glowed faintly with lumen strips, their light uneven, as though they too were trembling. Ahead loomed the great brass doors of the chapel, cog teeth embossed in gold, incense braziers burning cold, and from within voices, chanting. Through the crack, the doors were not sealed as tightly as usual. Perhaps the priests were too consumed with their ritual. Perhaps the machine spirit wanted me to see. There was a gap, just wide enough for me to lean and look. I wish I had never done so. The chapel was not like any holy place I had seen. The walls were slick with condensation, cables hanging like vines from the ceiling. In the center stood an altar. No, not an altar. A slaughter slab of black steel, pitted and scarred. Its surface was wet, shining crimson under the glow of lumen strips. On the slab lay bodies, servitors, not yet fully dead. They were inverted, suspended from hooks driven through their augmetic limbs, their throats cut open, blood draining down tubes into basins that fed directly into the Titan's conduits. Their machine parts still twitched, as though struggling to function, as though their ruined flesh resisted its end. Around them, tech priests moved in a circle. Their mechadendrites stirred the blood with sensors of sacred oil, mixing the fluids before pumping them into glowing pipelines. As they worked, they chanted not Binharic prayers, not the litanies of the Omnissiah I had memorized, but something else. The words were thick, guttural, almost like low Gothic but older, twisted. They repeated in unison, growing louder with each cycle, their mechanical voices blurring into one. The sound rose like static, like a storm of broken Vox signals. And above all that, the bells tolled, the moment of horror. I pressed myself closer, heart pounding. My breath fogged the steel. I saw one of the servitors twitch its head. Its ruined eyes turned toward me. Its lips moved. No sound came, only a bubble of blood. But I knew what it mouthed. Don't look. I stumbled back, but I could not tear my eyes away. The tech priests plunged their mechadendrites into the basins, drawing the blood oil mixture. They raised it high, letting droplets splash across their masks, their robes, the altar. One priest intoned words that chilled me. The machine does not move on oil alone. The machine must drink the blood of the faithful. The Titan must be fed. I clapped a hand over my mouth to silence my breathing. The machine spirit. Fed on blood? No. That was impossible. Heresy. The Mechanicus would never, and yet I was watching it with my own eyes. The conduits connected to the basins glowed faintly. I could hear the Titan itself, deep within its hull, rumbling as though in satisfaction. The decks beneath my feet thrummed, and for the first time, I felt something new. The Titan was alive. Not in the way I had always believed, as a spirit bound in machine code. No, it was alive in hunger, in thirst, in the taste of blood. The Magos appears. A voice behind me froze my soul. Moderati Cassian. I spun. The corridor was no longer empty. A figure stood in the shadows, robes of crimson, mask of brass, eyes glowing with augmetic light. A Magos. His mechadendrites writhed like serpents. In one hand, he carried a censer still dripping red. I stammered, unable to speak. My throat closed like a trap. The Magos tilted his head. You should not be here. His voice was metallic, yet calm. But since you are, perhaps the Omnissiah has chosen you to learn. He stepped forward, past me, and the chapel doors opened fully with a hiss. The chanting swelled. The smell of blood washed over us both. "Come," he said. "See what sustains the Dominus Veritatis. See the truth hidden from the unworthy." I should have run. I should have fled to my quarters and sealed the door. But my legs moved as if pulled by strings. I followed. Inside the chapel, the air was thick with incense and iron. The screams of servitors blended with the droning chant. The altar gleamed darkly, awash in blood. The Magos raised his arms. "You believed the Titan was fueled by oil and prayer alone. That is the lie told to Moderati and guardsmen. The truth is older, deeper. The machine spirit is not soothed by ritual alone. It hungers. It must be fed." I whispered, my voice barely audible. "Fed. With them." He turned his mask toward me. "With all who serve, with all who are expendable. Flesh becomes fuel. Faith becomes power. The Dominus Veritatis has walked for millennia because it has drunk from thousands." I staggered, bile rising in my throat. The Magos leaned closer, vox crackling. "Do not fear. To give blood to the Titan is to join with it. To be consumed is to become eternal." Behind him, a servitor screamed as another cut was made across its chest. Blood poured into the basins. The Titan's decks shook in response. The walls vibrated like a drum, and in that vibration, I heard something terrible. A whisper. Not the priests, not the crew, the Titan itself. More. My breaking point. I fled. I do not remember how. My feet carried me blindly through corridors, past shrines, past lumens that flickered red. My heart thundered. My breath came ragged. The smell of blood clung to my robes, no matter how I tried to wipe it away. Back in my cell, I collapsed. I pressed my face into my hands and tried to pray, but no words came. The truth had been revealed. The Titan was not only machine. It was not only spirit. It was a god of iron and hunger, a predator fed by the Mechanicus on a diet of blood and souls. And I had seen it. Closing of Part 3. I am Cassian, Moderati of the Dominus Veritatis. I swore oaths to serve, to never question the Omnissiah's mysteries. But now I have seen what should never be seen. I have walked into the chapel where men are drained like cattle to keep our god machine alive. Every step the Titan takes, every blast it fires, is powered by sacrifice. And each night, when the bells toll, I hear not worship, but slaughter. The truth is a blade at my throat. I no longer know if I serve the Imperium or a monster clothed in iron. He cornered me in the chapel. The doors hissed shut behind us, sealing me inside with the smell of blood and incense. I could still hear the bells, tolling somewhere deep in the Titan's bones. The tech priests around the altar never paused, their chanting a constant drone. Their mechadendrites writhed through the air, dipping into bowls of crimson and sacred oil, stirring the mixture before feeding it into the conduits. The servitors continued to bleed, their mouths twitching soundless pleas I could almost understand. The Magos turned toward me, his brass mask catching the glow of the lumen strips. The cold green optics in his faceplate locked onto me as though dissecting me where I stood. His voice was not raised, yet it carried over the drone of the hymn, metallic and calm, every syllable deliberate. "You saw," he said. "You understand now." My throat was dry, my lips cracked. I wanted to deny it, to feign ignorance, but the words refused to come. He stepped closer, the smell of machine oil and old blood rolling from his robes. A mechadendrite brushed my shoulder, and I flinched. "You believe this is horror," he continued, "but it is devotion. It is necessity. Do you think Titans endure for 10,000 years by oil alone? By plasma alone? No, Moderati. The machine spirit is vast, older than you imagine, older than your bloodline, older than your prayers. It requires more." I found my voice, faint, trembling. "You drain them. You kill them. For fuel?" The Magos tilted his head. "No, not fuel. Communion. Blood binds flesh to steel. Sacrifice sanctifies circuits. This Titan does not merely move through power. It moves through faith embodied in blood, through loyalty proven in death. The Omnissiah demands nothing less." I shook my head. "This is heresy. The word felt like ash on my tongue, dangerous even to say. His laugh was a broken vox crackle, harsh and bitter. Heresy? Everything you see here is sanctioned by Mars itself, hidden beneath layers of secrecy you were never meant to breach. You call it heresy because your mind is small. You see only cruelty. I see eternity. The tech priests at the altar raised their arms. The chanting grew louder. The Titan's decks shivered as more blood poured into its veins. For a moment, I swore I felt its presence brushing against my thoughts, a vast hunger, an ancient voice murmuring from behind iron walls. The Magos leaned close until his mask filled my vision. Do not resist this truth, Cassian. You have been chosen to see it because you have proven your endurance, your loyalty, your capacity to serve. The Moderati are not only operators, they are candidates. Some survive long enough to be brought into the deeper mysteries. Others do not. Which path you walk now depends on your answer. My heart hammered against my ribs. What answer? Acceptance, he whispered. Or sacrifice? I staggered back, bumping into a column slick with condensation. My voice rose, a ragged shout that sounded weak even to me. You can't expect me to condone this. You're feeding men like cattle to the Titan. This is madness. The Margos's mechadendrites coiled in the air like snakes, hissing. His tone darkened, each word edged with threat. Then you are blind. You ride inside this god machine, you taste its wrath, you call yourself servant of the Omnissiah, yet you recoil from the truth of what sustains it. Flesh is transient, blood is plentiful. What is one life, or 1,000 lives, weighed against the glory of a Titan's stride? Against the Emperor's will, made manifest in iron and fire? I had no reply. My breath came in gasps, the chapel spinning around me. The servitors twitched on their hooks. The Titan groaned, as if in hunger, as if impatient. The Magos studied me in silence for a long moment, then lowered his voice again, soft as rust. You doubt. Doubt is dangerous, but it can be purged. The machine spirit consumes not only blood, but weakness. You will either learn to silence your doubts, or you will be silenced. Consider this a mercy. Others who stumbled upon this truth did not even receive the choice. He gestured to the altar, to the dripping servitors, to the conduits glowing faintly with stolen life. Stand with us, embrace what is required, or stand against us, and you will be fed to the Dominus Veritatis yourself. I could barely breathe. My thoughts swirled, drowning in the stench of incense and iron, in the knowledge I could never unsee. Acceptance or sacrifice. To live, I would have to become complicit in this atrocity, to kneel in the blood-drenched chapel and call it holy. To refuse was to die here, drained into the Titan's veins, forgotten, my name erased, my body reduced to fuel for the god machine. The bells tolled again, loud enough to shake the very walls. The Titan trembled beneath my feet, as though laughing, as though demanding its due. And in that sound, I realized my torment was only beginning. I returned to my station with the Margos's words still burning in my skull. Acceptance or sacrifice. Those were the only paths he had offered me. Yet when I sat in the restraint throne, when I placed my hands over the control runes, I realized the truth was even more cruel. I had no path at all. Whatever choice I thought I had made would be consumed the moment the Titan stirred. The call to battle came at dawn. Sirens blared across the hangar. Tech priests marched like insects, their robes trailing cables. Servitors shuffled toward their sockets, plugging themselves into walls, their veins emptied, their thoughts erased. Princeps Valen's voice thundered from the throne, commanding us to our posts. The Margos lingered near him like a shadow, his optics fixed on me. I felt his stare burrow through my skull, daring me to falter. When the order came for neural synchronization, my stomach clenched. I had endured this communion countless times before, but never with the knowledge of what truly flowed through the Titan's veins. The interface spike at the base of my skull grew warm. The restraints tightened. My breath quickened. The bells tolled again. And suddenly, the pain pierced me. White fire flooded my mind. My lips bled as my teeth ground together. I screamed, though the sound was lost in the rising chorus of the Titan's awakening. My vision split into fragments of red and black as the Dominus Veritatis opened its eyes. and I was dragged inside, swallowed whole. The Titan's consciousness engulfed me. It was vast, cavernous, heavy with centuries of blood and memory. I felt the press of 1,000 voices echoing in its iron skull, crew long dead, their identities dissolved into the machine. The machine spirit did not merely whisper now, it roared. Its hunger was a tide crashing against my mind. Through its eyes I saw the battlefield ahead, a rebel stronghold of stone and ferrocrete, bunkers bristling with weapons, banners of defiance fluttering in the smoke. Infantry scurried like vermin across the plains, and armored vehicles rolled forward to meet us. In their courage I sensed only futility. The Titan saw them not as enemies, but as fodder, offerings laid out for slaughter. My hands moved across the runes almost by instinct, but it was not truly me guiding them. It was the Titan. The volcano cannon thrummed with lethal power, its capacitors screaming as energy gathered. The Gatling blaster spun, a predator eager to feed. The power fist flexed, its field crackling like the laughter of a storm. Each weapon felt alive, pulsing, hungry. I realized with horror that they were fed not only by plasma and charge, but by the blood that had been poured into the chapel hours earlier. I felt that blood burn in my veins as though it were my own. When the order to fire came, my body obeyed. The cannon unleashed a lance of white fury that tore the earth open, reducing tanks and men to molten glass. The blaster roared, stitching fire across the battlefield, shredding hundreds in an instant. The fist swung, crushing armor like paper, reducing flesh to mist, and each act of destruction filled me with a sickening satisfaction that was not mine. It belonged to the Titan. It bled into me, seeping through every neural thread. I tried to resist, tried to remember myself. I thought of my family on my forge world, of the friend I had once lost in training, of the faint memory of laughter before all of this. But those thoughts dimmed, drowned beneath the tide of iron will. The Titan's voice pressed into me, whispering, coaxing, "Do not fear, do not resist. You are not Cassian, you are me. You are the Dominus Veritatis." I screamed, thrashing against the restraints, but outwardly my body was calm, fingers gliding across the runes, eyes fixed on targeting data. The others in the command crew did not notice my rebellion. To them, I was only performing my duty. Only I knew that with every heartbeat, the Titan's identity was devouring mine. The Princeps's presence loomed above us all, vast and commanding. His thoughts were a blazing sun in the shared link, and for a moment I clung to him, hoping he still held some fragment of humanity. But even he had been eroded. His will was inseparable from the Titan's will. He had become little more than its mouthpiece. And the Margos. I felt him too, a cold echo, observing, judging, waiting for me to break. The battle raged for hours. Entire districts fell beneath our stride. Buildings crumbled into rubble, fortresses melted into slag. I watched through the Titan's vision as civilians ran screaming, their bodies crushed beneath our feet, their homes reduced to ash. A part of me recoiled, but another part, the part the Titan had claimed, exulted. The contradiction tore at me until I could no longer tell which was real. At last, as the enemy fled into the ruins, the Titan halted. Smoke billowed across the horizon, fires consuming everything. The neural link pulsed with satisfaction, the aftertaste of slaughter, and in that moment of silence, the Titan's voice came again, clearer than ever. "More. Feed me more." I gasped, shaking, trying to shut it out, but the voice burrowed deeper. It spoke not in words, but in hunger, in need, and I knew, with a clarity that froze me, that the servitors on the altar had not been the last. If the Titan's thirst could not be quenched by blood already given, then one day soon, it would take mine. I am Cassian. I was Moderati of the Dominus Veritatis. But each time I enter the Titan's embrace, I feel less of Cassian and more of the machine. Into its arms I am pulled, and in its arms I am lost. I do not know how many battles I can endure before the Titan consumes me entirely. Perhaps that is the truth the Magos wished me to see. Perhaps that is the only truth left, that we are not its masters, not its servants, but its offerings. The Dominus Veritatis does not walk for the Emperor. It does not stride for the Omnissiah. It walks to feed. And I walk with it. already half devoured. When the battle ended and the Titan stood triumphant amid ruins and ash, the neural link disengaged. The spike withdrew from the base of my skull, the cables unlatched, and the restraints loosened with a hiss of pneumatics. For a moment, I thought I would feel relief. I thought I would collapse into myself, grateful to be free. But freedom did not come. The Titan remained in me. Its weight pressed behind my eyes. Its breath filled my lungs. When I lifted my hands, I swore I could feel the echo of its weapons, the twitch of the volcano cannon's charge, the flex of the fist crackling with power. My own body seemed too small, too fragile, too weak to contain what I had just been. I rose from the throne on trembling legs. Sweat soaked my robes, but it was more than exhaustion. My heart stuttered, a strange arrhythmia, as though my pulse no longer belonged entirely to me. Every beat carried another rhythm, slower, deeper, the pulse of the Dominus Veritatis itself. The tech priests moved about the command deck, chanting their post-battle litanies. The Magos lingered near, silent but watchful. His optics never left me. He knew, he could see it. My doubts, my rebellion, all of it had been tempered by the Titan's hunger. Now I was marked, bound in ways even I could not escape. I staggered to my quarters, but sleep would not come. My dreams were filled with fire. I saw the battlefield from the Titan's eyes, saw men melt and burn, saw their screams burst like sparks in the neural link. I awoke with blood on my tongue, teeth marks in my lips. I had bitten myself in my sleep. Days passed, the rituals resumed. We walked again to war, and each communion cost me more. The first thing to go was my sense of time. Hours, days, weeks inside the Titan, they dissolved into a single, endless now. When I unlatched from the link, I could not remember if the battle had lasted minutes or years. The Titan's memory bled into mine, and I carried centuries that were not mine in my head. Places I had never seen burned behind my eyes. Voices of crew long dead whispered in my ears, their words indistinguishable from my own thoughts. Then went my body. My hands no longer felt like hands. When I closed my fist, I swore I could hear the grinding of gears. My skin felt heavy, as if plated. My chest ached with phantom weight, like reactor coils pulsing beneath my ribs. Once, while washing at the basin, I saw my reflection tremble in the recycled water, and for an instant, it was not me I saw. It was the Titan, staring back through hollow eyes. Worst of all was my voice. During one communion, when I spoke firing data, my words came out wrong. The syllables were not Gothic. They were not Binharic. They were something else, guttural, mechanical, older than either. The other Moderati turned to look at me, their faces pale. But the Princeps only nodded, as though satisfied. The Magos smiled behind his mask. I realized they wanted this. They wanted me to change. Every communion is a price. Each time I plug into the throne, I give away a piece of myself. And the Titan takes it, greedily, hungrily, adding it to the mass of souls already trapped within its iron heart. I think often of the servitors on the altar. Perhaps they were not simply sacrifices of flesh. Perhaps they were initiates like me, Moderati or Engenseers, who had seen too much, who resisted too little. Their blood spilled, their bodies consumed, their thoughts swallowed, until nothing remained but twitching limbs and hollow eyes. And I know now the fate that waits for me. It will not be quick. The Titan does not devour in a single bite. It consumes slowly, feeding on your memories, your humanity, until you no longer know where you end and it begins. The transformation is not a choice. It is inevitability. Already, my thoughts betray me. When I look at the battlefield, I no longer see enemies. I see fuel. When I see my fellow crew, I see replacements, offerings in waiting. And when I close my eyes, I hear the Titan's whisper again and again, soft and constant. You are mine. You are always mine. I am Cassian. I remind myself of this every hour. I am Moderati of the Dominus Veritatis. I was born of flesh. I had a family once. I had a name. But those truths are fading, crumbling like ruins beneath the Titan's stride. And the price is not only mine. Every Moderati pays it. Every Princeps pays it. Even the Magos, for all his augmetics, for all his secrets, is nothing more than another soul being ground into the machine's will. He told me once that this is eternity. But eternity, I have learned, is only another word for slavery. I feel the Titan waiting. Even now, between campaigns, when the hangar is still and the air recycled and stale, I hear the bells faintly in the walls. I know the chapel is never empty. I know the blood never ceases to flow. The transformation continues, and the price is infinite. One day soon, I will no longer say, I am Cassian. I will say only, I am the Dominus Veritatis, and that will be the end of me. But the Titan will live on. It always lives on. It always feeds. They cheer for us when we return. They always cheer. The soldiers on the ground, the commanders who send us into the teeth of hell, the priests who chant the litanies of triumph, they all bow as the Dominus Veritatis strides back from another battlefield turned to ash. They see glory in our gate, holiness in the shadow we cast across the ruins. To them, we are saviors. To them, we are proof of the Emperor's power made manifest. But I know the truth. From within the Titan, the glory is hollow. Victory tastes like ash. When we obliterate an enemy column with the volcano cannon, the soldiers see a miracle. When we crush a fortress beneath our feet, the commanders call it judgment. When entire cities burn in our stride, the priests call it salvation. But for those of us inside, there is no miracle, no salvation, no judgment. Only hunger being sated. Each battle bleeds more of me into the machine. Each step we take, I feel my humanity dissolve further into its iron veins. The Titan exults, and I am carried along, whether I will it or not. I taste the fire. I taste the screams. I taste the end of everything. They call it holy work. I call it consumption. Princeps Valen is almost gone now. His will once shone like a beacon, commanding and absolute. Now he is little more than an echo of the Titan itself. When he speaks, it is the Dominus Veritatis that speaks through him. His body is withered to bone and wire, his mind worn away by centuries of communion. He sits enthroned in his cage of tubes, a puppet with the voice of a god machine. I used to pity him. Now I know he is my future. The Magos watches me closely. I feel his optics burn holes into my flesh every time I stumble, every time my thoughts wander. He waits for weakness, for hesitation, for any sign that I cannot carry the burden. And in truth, he is right to wait. I do hesitate. I do doubt. Even as my lips speak litanies, even as my hands move across the runes, even as my body obeys, some small ember within me screams against what we are doing, but the Titan drowns it. The Dominus Veritatis is louder than conscience, louder than memory. Its voice seeps into me during every communion, and even now, apart from the throne, I feel it whispering. You are mine. You are not Cassian. You are me. The hollow glory is this, that we stride triumphant across a galaxy of ruins, yet inside we are already ruined. That we inspire awe, yet inside we feel only emptiness. That we are hailed as heroes, yet inside we are little more than cattle being drained slowly, one battle at a time. I once believed that service inside a Titan was the highest honor. I once believed that to stand in its shadow was to stand in the presence of the divine. But I have seen the chapel, I have smelled the blood, I have heard the machine spirit's hunger, and I know now that the Titans do not walk for the Emperor. They do not stride for the Omnissiah. They walk to feed. One day, they will say my name in the litanies. They will call me a loyal moderati who served with distinction. They will write my victories into the archives, but they will never tell the truth that I am already gone, dissolved into the Titan's veins, a whisper among countless voices trapped in its endless hunger. The Dominus Veritatis strides on, eternal, victorious, worshipped. And I, Cassian, son of a forgotten forge world, a man who once dreamed of serving with honor, I am nothing but its shadow, a hollow echo carried within iron walls. This is the glory they cheer for. This is the truth I can never speak aloud, the hollow glory of war.